Maya wiped the sweat from her forehead as she scrubbed another layer of moss from the ancient stone altar. The jungle had been trying to reclaim this place for decades, maybe centuries. Thick vines crawled up the weathered pillars, and strange purple flowers bloomed in cracks between the stone blocks. Most people avoided this forgotten shrine deep in the Amazon rainforest. But Maya found peace here. She had stumbled upon it 3 months ago, while documenting rare plant species for her botanical research. The local villagers warned her to stay away, speaking in hushed tones about angry spirits and old gods. Maya didn't believe in such things. She was a scientist, trained to observe and analyze, not to fear shadows and whispers. But something about this place called to her. The architecture was unlike anything she had seen before. The stones fit together with impossible precision. No mortar needed. Symbols covered every surface, carved so deep they remained sharp despite the jungle's assault. She couldn't read them, but they seemed almost familiar. Like a half-remembered dream, the altar stood in the center of a circular chamber, its surface covered in intricate patterns that spiraled inward toward a small depression in the middle. Maya had been cleaning it methodically, section by section, photographing each symbol as she revealed it. Her colleagues back at the university would be fascinated by this discovery. As she worked, the jungle seemed unusually quiet. No bird calls, no insect buzzing, just the soft scrape of her brush against stone. Even the ever-present humidity felt lighter here, as if the air itself was different within these walls. Maya paused to examine her progress. The altar was almost completely clean now, its dark surface gleaming in the dappled sunlight that filtered through the canopy overhead. The symbols seemed to shimmer slightly, but she attributed that to the heat and her tired eyes. She reached for her water bottle, taking a long drink before returning to work. Only one small section remained covered in moss and dirt. As her brush touched the final symbols, she felt a strange tingling in her fingers, like mild static electricity. The moment she finished cleaning the last carved line, the world changed. The air suddenly felt thick, almost solid. The temperature dropped 20 degrees in an instant, making her breath visible in small puffs. The symbols on the altar began to glow with a soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Maya stumbled backward, her scientific mind struggling to process what she was seeing. Then she heard it. A voice, ancient beyond measure, speaking directly into her mind rather than her ears. At last, the words carried the weight of eons, filled with loneliness and hope in equal measure. Maya's knees buckled, and she sat hard on the stone floor. The voice came again, clearer now, tinged with something like relief. So long. So very long I have waited. The seal is broken, and I can speak once more. Maya found her voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. Who are you? What is this place? The blue light pulsed brighter, and warmth began to emanate from the altar. I am Kethvar, guardian of the growing things, keeper of life's sacred balance. This shrine was built by your ancestors long ago, when humanity was young and still remembered the old partnerships. Partnerships? Maya managed to stand, her legs shaking. I don't understand. Your people and mine worked together once, before the great forgetting. We taught them the secrets of growth and healing, and they tended our sacred places. But time passed, knowledge was lost, and the connections were severed. I have slumbered here for 3,000 years, waiting for one who could hear my voice. Maya's scientific training warred with what she was experiencing. Hallucination brought on by heat and isolation seemed like the logical explanation, but the cool air on her skin and the steady pulse of light from the symbols felt absolutely real. Why me? She asked. Because you understand the language of growing things. You study them, care for them, see their connections to all life. Your mind is open to possibilities that others would reject. Most importantly, you cleaned my altar with respect, not conquest. The deity's presence felt vast but not threatening. Maya sensed immense age and power held in careful check, like a storm cloud choosing not to release its lightning. What do you want from me? She asked. The same thing your ancestors wanted. Partnership. The world is sick. Child of humanity. Your species has forgotten its place in the great web of life. Plants and animals vanish every day. The very air grows poisonous. The oceans rise, and the forests burn. Without intervention, all will be lost. Maya thought of her research, the declining biodiversity she documented, the climate data that painted an increasingly grim picture. You're talking about the environmental crisis. I speak of balance lost. But it can be restored. If humanity remembers what it once knew, you can be the bridge between your people and mine, as your ancestors were long ago. I'm just one person. I'm not special. I'm not a leader or a prophet or anything important. The light from the altar pulsed with what felt like gentle amusement. The greatest changes often begin with a single seed in fertile ground. You have the knowledge your people need, and now you have something more. Will you help me restore what was lost? Maya stared at the glowing symbols, her mind racing. Everything she had been trained to believe said this was impossible, but everything she had learned about the natural world suggested that there were still mysteries beyond human understanding. What would I have to do? She asked finally. Learn, teach, help me wake others who sleep in forgotten places. Your ancestors built shrines like this around the world, each guarded by one of my kind. Most of us sleep still, waiting for the touch of human hands guided by human hearts that remember the old compact. The implications hit her like a physical blow. There are others? Other beings like you? Many others, guardians of different aspects of life. Some watch over the waters, others the winds. Some guard the deep places where stone and metal sleep, others tend the spaces between earth and sky. All of us connected, all of us part of the same great pattern. Maya sank onto a moss-covered stone, trying to process what she was hearing. If this was real, if there truly were ancient entities dedicated to protecting the natural world, then everything humanity thought it knew about its place in the universe was wrong. I need time to think about this, she said. Of course. This is not a decision to make lightly. But know this. Maya Chen of the human people. Time grows short. The damage to your world accelerates beyond your scientists' worst predictions. Soon, even our combined power may not be enough to turn the tide. The use of her full name startled her. How do you know who I am? I know all who approach my shrine with honest hearts. I have watched you work these past months, seen your dedication to understanding and preserving life. This is why I chose to speak when you completed the cleaning ritual. Maya realized that what she thought had been casual cleaning had actually been something far more significant. The symbols. They were some kind of key, a test, and an invitation both. Only one who truly cared for the life around this place would have taken such care to clean, without damaging. Only one who respected what they did not understand would have documented rather than destroyed. You passed the test without knowing you were taking it. The blue light began to fade slightly, and Maya felt the presence withdrawing. Rest now, Kethvar said. Return tomorrow if you wish to learn more. But remember, every day that passes without action is another day closer to a point of no return. The light faded completely, leaving Maya alone in the dimming jungle twilight. The oppressive heat returned, and insects began their evening chorus, as if nothing had happened. But the symbols on the altar remained faintly visible, their lines somehow cleaner and sharper than before. Maya gathered her equipment with shaking hands. Her camera had been running the entire time, and she wondered what, if anything, it had recorded. Part of her hoped it would show nothing but empty stone and her own confused muttering. That would be easier to explain, easier to dismiss as heat stroke or isolation psychosis. But as she walked back through the jungle toward her camp, she found herself hoping even more strongly that the camera had captured something real. Because if Kethvar was telling the truth, if there really were ancient allies waiting to help humanity save itself, then perhaps the future wasn't as hopeless as it seemed. The walk back to camp took an hour. Plenty of time for Maya to construct rational explanations for what had happened. Heat exhaustion, dehydration, Maybe some kind of natural gas seepage from underground, causing mild hallucinations. By the time she reached her tent, she had almost convinced herself that was all it had been. Then she looked at her camera's LCD screen and saw 47 minutes of footage showing the altar glowing like a blue star, while her own voice asked questions of empty air that somehow answered back. Maya stared at the camera footage for the third time, her coffee growing cold in the humid morning air. The blue light was unmistakable, pulsing in perfect rhythm with the voice that spoke from nowhere. She had tried every rational explanation she could think of. Equipment malfunction, some kind of bioluminescent organism, reflected sunlight creating optical illusions. None of it held up under scrutiny. She had barely slept, her mind churning with implications. If Kethvar was real, if there truly were other guardians sleeping around the world, then humanity had allies it never knew existed. But that also meant the environmental collapse she studied every day was even more serious than anyone realized. The hike back to the shrine took half as long as usual. Maya found herself almost running through the jungle, driven by a mixture of scientific curiosity and something deeper. The symbols on the altar were definitely brighter than yesterday, visible even in the morning shadows. "You returned," Kethvar's voice echoed in her mind as soon as she entered the chamber. "I was not certain you would. I had to know if it was real," Maya said aloud, feeling slightly foolish talking to empty air. "I have so many questions." "Ask them. You said my ancestors worked with your kind before. What happened to that partnership?" The altar's glow intensified, and images began to form in the blue light above the stone surface. Maya saw scenes like something from a dream or ancient memory. Humans and tall, luminous beings working side by side in vast gardens. Cities that seemed grown rather than built, their architecture blending seamlessly with living trees and flowing water. "This was 12,000 years ago," Kethvar explained as the images shifted and changed. "Your people had just learned agriculture, just begun to understand the deep patterns that connect all living things. We taught them how to work with nature rather than against it. They built great civilizations that lasted for millennia without harming the world that sustained them. What went wrong?" The images darkened, showing scenes of conflict and destruction. "A great catastrophe struck your world. Ice advanced from the poles. Seas rose and fell. Continents shook. Most of the old knowledge was lost. The survivors focused on mere survival, forgetting the deeper connections. By the time your people recovered, they had learned to see nature as something to be conquered rather than partnered with." Maya watched cities burn and forests fall in the ghostly blue projection. The end of the last ice age. Archaeological records show massive cultural disruption around that time. "Indeed. We tried to re-establish contact as your civilizations grew again, but the knowledge of how to hear us was lost. A few individuals could still sense our presence, but they were often dismissed as shamans or madmen. So we withdrew to our shrines and slept, hoping someday your people would remember. But some knowledge survived. Myths about nature spirits, guardian deities, the connection between humanity and the natural world. Shadows of memory, yes, distorted by time and retelling, but containing grains of truth. Your ancestors knew we were real, because they worked alongside us every day." Maya felt a chill despite the jungle heat. "And now you're saying we need that partnership again. More than need. Without it, your species will not survive the next century." The images above the altar shifted to show scenes Maya recognized from her own research. Bleached coral reefs, burning forests, massive storms, species going extinct at an unprecedented rate. But then the scenes changed, showing what could be if humans learned to work with nature again. Cities that cleaned the air instead of polluting it. Agriculture that healed soil rather than depleting it. Technology powered by living systems. "This is what we can teach you," Kethvar said. "But first, you must help us wake the others. There are shrines like this on every continent, each with a guardian who holds different knowledge. Together, we can turn the tide." "How many others?" 47 sleep still. 7 have already awakened as environmental destruction reached their sacred places. They wait for human contact. But most humans who find them flee in fear or attack what they don't understand. Maya thought of the warnings she had heard from local villagers, their fear of this place. People are afraid because they don't understand. Fear is natural when facing the unknown, but you overcame your fear. Others can do the same. I'm still afraid, Maya admitted. What you're asking, I don't know if I'm the right person for this. I'm not brave or charismatic or anything special. You are exactly what is needed. You understand the science behind the crisis your world faces. You can speak the language of both worlds. The ancient wisdom we offer, and the modern knowledge your people respect. Most importantly, you care more about truth than comfort. The compliment made her uncomfortable. What would I have to do first? Learn. Each guardian holds different knowledge, teaches different aspects of working with the living world. You must visit other shrines, wake other guardians, gather the wisdom needed to help your people change course. Where are they? Images flowed across the altar's surface. A mountaintop temple in the Himalayas, surrounded by impossible gardens. Underwater ruins off the coast of Greece, where coral formations spelled out ancient words. A cave system beneath the Australian outback that pulsed with bioluminescent life. A grove of massive trees in the Pacific Northwest that hummed with barely audible music. Some will be easier to reach than others. Some guardians will be eager to wake, others more cautious. A few may test you before they agree to teach. Imantu says. Imantu says. Imantu says. Imantu says. Imantu says. Tests like what? Each guardian has their own nature. Aishtai, keeper of the deep waters, might require you to prove your commitment by spending time in her domain. Velthon, who tends the growing things of the earth, may ask you to successfully nurture life in a place where it should not grow. The tests are not meant to be cruel, but to ensure you truly understand what you are committing to. Maya felt overwhelmed by the scope of what was being asked. How long would this take? Months? Years? Time is not our concern, but it should be yours. Every day brings new damage that will be harder to repair. The sooner you begin, the more we will be able to help. I can't just abandon my life, my research, my responsibilities. Your research has prepared you for this work. Your responsibilities are to all life, not just human institutions. As for your life. The presence paused, and Maya sensed careful consideration. This path will change you. You will see the world differently. Understand connections most humans cannot perceive. But you will still be yourself. Still be human. That is essential to our purpose. Maya walked around the chamber, studying the symbols carved into every surface. Now that she looked closely, she could see they weren't random decorations, but a complex system of notation, like a combination of writing and mathematical formulas. These symbols, they're instructions, aren't they? Among other things, this shrine contains centuries of accumulated knowledge about the life patterns of this region, plant growth cycles, animal migration paths, weather patterns, soil composition, the flow of nutrients through the forest ecosystem. Your ancestors used this information to live in harmony with their environment. It's like a biological database carved in stone, more than a database. Each symbol is alive, with the pattern it represents. Touch the one that calls to you. Maya approached the altar cautiously. One symbol seemed to pulse slightly brighter than the others, a spiraling pattern that reminded her of unfurling fern fronds. When her fingers made contact, knowledge flooded her mind. She could suddenly sense every plant within a mile radius. She felt their roots drinking from underground streams, their leaves processing sunlight into energy, their chemical signals warning neighbors of insect attacks or calling for symbiotic fungi. The forest wasn't just a collection of individual trees and plants. It was a single, vast organism, with each component playing a vital role. The sensation lasted only moments, but it left her gasping. What was that? A taste of how we perceive the world. Humans once shared this awareness. Though to a lesser degree, it can be learned again. Maya looked at her hands, half expecting to see them changed somehow. Will I be able to do that again? With practice and proper teaching. Each guardian can share different aspects of this deeper perception. But the learning requires commitment. You cannot wake the guardians and then abandon the path when it becomes difficult. What happens if I say yes? To my life, I mean. Can I ever go back to the way things were? Would you want to? After seeing what you have seen, feeling what you have felt, could you return to thinking of forests as mere resources and animals as simple biological machines? Maya realized the answer was no. Even if she walked away right now, she would never look at the natural world the same way again. The brief moment of expanded awareness had shown her a reality far richer and more complex than anything she had imagined. I need to know more before I decide. Can you show me what happened to the other guardians who have already awakened? The altar's glow shifted, and new images appeared. A woman in Norway, communicating with something in a glacier that was rapidly melting. A man in the Amazon speaking to a massive tree that seemed to glow from within. A child in Madagascar sitting perfectly still, while lemurs gathered around her in impossible numbers. Others have already begun the work, Kethvar said. But they work alone, without coordination or shared knowledge. They are like individual seeds, scattered in the wind. What is needed is a network, a way for the awakened guardians to share information and coordinate their efforts. And you think I could organize something like that? I think you could begin it. Others would join as word spread. Humans are remarkably adaptable when they understand the stakes. Maya stared at the images of people working with awakened guardians around the world. They looked peaceful, purposeful, like they had found something she had been searching for without realizing it. If I agree to this, she said slowly, how do I explain it to people? How do I make them believe? Truth has a way of making itself known. Start with those already working to heal the world. Environmentalists, biologists, indigenous peoples who remember fragments of the old knowledge. Show them what you have learned. Let them see the evidence with their own eyes. And if they think I'm insane, then you find others who are ready to listen. The ones who need to hear this message will recognize its truth. Maya closed her eyes and tried to imagine her life 6 months from now. Traveling to remote locations, seeking out ancient shrines, learning to communicate with entities that predated human civilization. It sounded impossible, terrifying, and absolutely necessary all at the same time. I'll do it, she said quietly. I don't know how, but I'll try. The blue light pulsed brighter, and she felt waves of something like gratitude flowing from the presence. Then we begin tomorrow, Kethvar said. Rest tonight. Tomorrow I will teach you the first lessons you will need for the journey ahead. 6 months later, Maya stood on the observation deck of a research vessel in the Mediterranean, watching her team lower specialized equipment into the waters off the Greek coast. The underwater ruins they had discovered were even more remarkable than the images Kethvar had shown her. Ancient stone structures covered in living coral that formed readable symbols, their patterns shifting with the tides. Depth holding steady at 40 meters, called Dr. Sarah Chen, Maya's former colleague who had joined the project after seeing the documentation from the Amazon shrine. The coral formations are definitely artificial. Nothing in nature creates geometric patterns this precise. Maya smiled, remembering Sarah's initial skepticism. It had taken 3 demonstrations of Maya's new abilities before Sarah accepted that something extraordinary was happening. Now Sarah was one of the project's most enthusiastic researchers. Maya, you need to see this, called James Okafor from the communications station. James was their newest team member, a linguist who specialized in dead languages. We're getting responses from the monitoring stations. Maya hurried over to the bank of screens showing feeds from the 17 shrine sites they now had under observation. Each location showed similar patterns. Ancient structures awakening as human contact increased, their guardian entities stirring from millennia-long sleep. The screen from Norway showed spectacular footage of the Ragnhild Glacier, which had stopped melting entirely since Dr. Astrid Larsen made contact with its guardian 3 weeks ago. The temperature readings showed localized cooling effects that defied conventional meteorology. Look at the atmospheric data from Madagascar, James said excitedly. The rainforest around the shrine is producing 30% more oxygen than any forest should be able to generate, and the biodiversity counts are off the charts. Maya nodded, though she was more interested in the human element. What about the local populations? Any problems with acceptance? Better than we hoped. The Malagasy people remember stories about sacred trees that could speak. They're treating Dr. Andrianjaka like a returning hero for re-establishing contact. That was the pattern emerging worldwide. Indigenous populations and traditional communities adapted to the awakened guardians much more quickly than urban populations. Their cultural memories contained fragments of the old knowledge, making them natural allies in the growing network. Incoming transmission from the Australian site, Sarah announced. Dr. Martinez wants to speak with you directly. Maya put on the headset, immediately hearing the excitement in Maria Martinez's voice. Maya, we've had a breakthrough. The Guardian here, they call themselves Thekmor, just shared something incredible. They can communicate directly with the mycorrhizal network. The what? The fungal networks that connect tree roots underground. Thekmor says they can send messages through the network to any forest on the continent. We're talking about a biological communication system that spans thousands of miles. Maya felt her pulse quicken. Can they reach the other shrine sites? That's what we're testing now. If this works, the Guardians might be able to coordinate their efforts across vast distances without human technology. This was exactly what they had been hoping for. The individual Guardians were powerful, but isolated. A communication network would allow them to work together on a planetary scale. Keep me updated on your progress, Maya said. We're about to attempt contact with the Mediterranean Guardian. She disconnected and turned to her team. Are we ready for the dive? Sarah nodded, though Maya could see the nervous excitement in her eyes. All systems green. The water-breathing apparatus is functioning perfectly, and the translation device is calibrated to the symbol patterns we've identified. The breathing apparatus was one of several technologies that had emerged from studying the Guardian's gifts. It wasn't really technological at all, more like a symbiotic organism that formed a temporary bond with human lungs, allowing extended underwater activity. Maya had been the first to test it, guided by instructions from Kethvar. Remember, Maya said as she suited up, each Guardian is different. Some are eager for contact, others are cautious. A few might be hostile after millennia of human neglect. Let me make first contact alone. The descent to the ruins was breathtaking. The coral formations weren't just covering ancient stones. They were integrated with them, creating hybrid structures that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. Schools of fish swam in complex formations around the buildings, their movements too precise to be natural. As Maya approached the central structure, a massive dome covered in spiral coral patterns, she felt a presence similar to Kethvar's, but with a distinctly aquatic character. Where Kethvar felt like deep forest and growing earth, this entity felt like ocean currents and tidal flows. Who disturbs the deep sanctuary? The voice flowed through the water itself, rather than her mind. Maya activated the translation device, hoping it would work underwater. I am Maya Chen, messenger of Kethvar, of the Amazon Shrine. We seek to re-establish the ancient partnership between humans and Guardians. The water around her suddenly became perfectly still, as if the entire ocean was holding its breath. Kethvar wakes? After 3,000 years of silence? Many Guardians are awakening now. We're building a network to coordinate our efforts. The world is dying, and we need your help. A current of warm water enveloped Maya, and she found herself surrounded by marine life unlike anything in textbooks. Fish with crystalline scales that caught and reflected light in impossible patterns. Octopi that seemed to be made of living glass. Coral polyps that moved with obvious intelligence. I am Abyssizara, keeper of the deep currents, guardian of the ocean's memory. Show me what has become of the surface world. Maya activated a waterproof tablet displaying the latest climate data. Ocean acidification graphs, temperature anomalies, species extinction rates, plastic pollution statistics. The files painted a stark picture of ecological collapse. The water around Maya grew noticeably cooler. Worse than I feared. The ocean's chemistry changes. The coral cities die, The great currents slow and weaken. Can you help heal it? Not alone. The damage runs too deep. But with my siblings awakened, with humans working as partners rather than destroyers. The presence paused, and Maya felt something like hope ripple through the water. Yes, it can be healed. What do you need from us? First, knowledge. I must speak with the other guardians, coordinate our response. The mycorrhizal networks Dr. Martinez discovered. They extend into the ocean through coastal mangroves. We can use them to communicate. Maya felt excitement building. A global biological internet connecting all the guardians. More than communication. Coordination. The climate patterns that affect your weather begin in the deep ocean. If we work together, we can influence those patterns. Moderate the extremes that threaten your species. Images flowed through the water around Maya. Ocean currents shifting to bring rain to drought-stricken regions. Coral reefs expanding rapidly to create new marine habitats. Algae blooms designed to capture excess carbon from the atmosphere. This is just the beginning, Abyssazara continued. Each guardian holds pieces of a larger pattern. United, we can restore the balance that sustains all life. How long will it take? In geological terms, an instant. In human terms, generations. But the changes will begin immediately once the network is complete. Maya felt a mixture of hope and overwhelming responsibility. We're going to need help convincing people. Most humans don't know any of this is possible. Truth demonstrates itself. As the healing begins, as the impossible becomes visible, believers will multiply. Your species adapts quickly when survival depends on it. Swimming back to the surface, Maya's mind raced with the implications. If Abyssazara was right, if the Guardians could actually reverse climate change through coordinated biological intervention, then humanity had a real chance at survival. But it would require unprecedented cooperation between human science and ancient wisdom. Traditional institutions would resist. Governments would want to control or weaponize the Guardians' abilities. Religious fundamentalists would see the entities as demons or false gods. Breaking the surface, Maya found her team waiting anxiously. Contact established, she announced. Abyssazara is willing to join the network. They can communicate through the fungal systems to coordinate with other guardians. Sarah's eyes widened. All of them? Globally? All of them. We're looking at real-time coordination between every awakened guardian on the planet. They can moderate weather patterns, accelerate ecosystem healing, even influence geological processes. James was frantically taking notes. The political implications are staggering. If world leaders realize there are entities that can control natural disasters, that's why we need to move carefully, Maya agreed. We introduce the reality gradually, through scientific channels first. Build credibility before making the larger claims. Maya, Sarah said quietly, what if they try to stop us? Governments, corporations, people who profit from environmental destruction. Maya looked back at the calm Mediterranean waters, knowing that 40 meters below, an ancient intelligence was awakening systems that could reshape the planet's climate. Then we make sure the Guardians are awake and networked before anyone realizes what's happening. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of activity. The biological communication network came online faster than anyone had expected. The Guardians had been isolated for so long that once contact was re-established, they worked together with startling efficiency. Maya found herself at the center of a global transformation that was largely invisible to the general public. Weather patterns began stabilizing in regions around active shrine sites. Fish populations rebounded in protected marine areas. Air quality improved dramatically in certain cities where underground guardians were working to process pollutants. The changes were subtle enough that most people attributed them to natural variation or improved environmental policies. But the scientific community was beginning to notice patterns that didn't fit conventional models. The data is impossible to ignore, Dr. Sarah Chen announced during their weekly team meeting. Ocean temperatures have dropped by an average of 2 degrees Celsius around active shrine sites. Coral reef coverage has increased by 40% in the Mediterranean monitoring zone. These changes violate everything we know about ecosystem recovery rates. Maya smiled, remembering her own disbelief 6 months earlier. What do the official reports say? That's the thing. There are no official reports yet. The changes are so unprecedented that research institutions don't know how to categorize them. But they're starting to ask questions. Good. When they're ready for answers, we'll have them. James looked up from his computer. We've got confirmation from all active sites. 41 Guardians are now part of the network. Only 6 locations remain inactive. Any word on why those 6 haven't responded? Dr. Larson thinks the permafrost sites might require special activation procedures. The entities there might be in deeper hibernation due to the extreme cold. Maya nodded. We'll tackle those once the current network is fully stabilized. How are the human teams adapting? Better than expected. Each contact team reports developing enhanced environmental awareness within weeks of working with their guardian. Dr. Martinez can now identify individual trees from miles away. Dr. Andrianjaka says he can sense the health of entire ecosystems just by touching the soil. That was perhaps the most encouraging development. Humans working closely with the Guardians were redeveloping perceptual abilities that had been lost for millennia. They were becoming bridges between the ancient wisdom and modern understanding. There's something else, Sarah said hesitantly. We're getting reports of spontaneous contact events. People with no connection to our project, claiming to have encountered guardian entities in natural settings. Maya felt a chill of excitement. The awakening is spreading on its own? It looks that way. A park ranger in Yellowstone reported a conversation with something in a hot spring. A marine biologist in the Caribbean says a reef spoke to her during a routine survey dive. A forestry student in the Congo uploaded video of trees moving in formation. Are these people credible? James pulled up files on his laptop. Completely. All established professionals with sterling reputations. None of them have any history of mental illness or substance abuse, and their stories all follow the same pattern. Initial disbelief, then gradual acceptance as evidence mounted. Maya realized they had reached a tipping point. The Guardian network was becoming self-sustaining, reaching out to humans who were ready to listen. The ancient partnership was rebuilding itself organically. We need to accelerate the documentation process, she decided. If spontaneous contact events are increasing, we need to be ready to provide guidance and support to new contactees. There's one more thing, Sarah said. I've been analyzing the atmospheric data from all our sites. If current trends continue, we're looking at a measurable improvement in global air quality within 6 months. Ocean acidification is already reversing in some areas. The effects are cascading through entire ecosystems. Maya felt tears she hadn't expected. After so many years studying environmental collapse, watching species disappear and habitats degrade, the possibility of actual healing seemed almost too good to believe. The Guardians are keeping their promise, she said softly. They're actually reversing the damage. Not reversing, James corrected gently. Healing. There's a difference. The scars will remain, but the underlying systems are being restored. Maya nodded, understanding the distinction. This wasn't about returning to some pristine past, but about creating a sustainable future where humans and nature worked as allies rather than adversaries. Standing on the deck of the research vessel, watching the sunset paint the Mediterranean gold and crimson, Maya thought about how much her life had changed since that day in the Amazon jungle. She had gone from documenting ecological collapse to helping orchestrate planetary healing. The hardest part was still ahead. As the changes became more obvious, as the impossible became undeniable, humanity would have to choose between embracing a new relationship with the natural world or trying to control and exploit forces beyond their comprehension. But for the first time in years, Maya felt genuinely hopeful about the future. The Guardians were awake, the network was growing, and humans were remembering what it meant to be part of something larger than themselves. The ancient partnership was beginning again, and this time, they had the knowledge to make it last.